Welcome back everyone to more of our custom career mode and VR gameplay. We're coming off a great race at Chicago. It threw me for a bit of a loop there early on in the race because we were able to get up to the lead pretty quickly and pretty easily. And for a few laps there, it looked like we were going to be able to pull away to a huge lead. Now, as the tires started to fall off, things changed and it ended up being a very fun race to the end. So let's go ahead and drop in the numbers. First thing we need to do is change the race number down to 7. So we'll give that a second and these guys will get updated. There we go. Cost and sponsorship drops in. So we started 15th, of course. Now, an interesting point here on the incident count. We had no incident points. But if you remember, we had a few trucks such as Ty Majeski and Chandler Smith who came into pit lane within the first couple of laps of the race. So I just assumed that they must have had some heavy contact at the start of the race. I mean, we saw a lot of 3 wide at the very beginning of the race, but as it turns out, there were no incident points for the AI, and I mean none, anywhere in the field. So maybe it just didn't register, or maybe something else was going on, maybe motor trouble, maybe flat tires, who knows what it could be. But something brought those guys in from the front of the field and really took them out of contention early on. Also, you remember late in the race, and I mean like with coming to the white flag, Zane Smith running second came into the pits. So a lot of interesting pit behavior there by the AI that was unscheduled. Not sure what's going on with that, but it ended up working in our favor because we came home with a 2nd place finish. We were in great position for a podium, but that podium got 1 slot better when Zane Smith came in to the pits with 1 to go. So 2nd place, that gives us another $43,000 on the race purse. And then of course we've got our sponsorship money of nearly $108,000 as well. So things are once again looking up. We'll hop over to the classifieds. This now puts us over $1 million. We are under $900,000 to go for our goal of making it to the Cup Series. And once again, as a quick reminder, we're going to be using my own personal spreadsheet moving forward once we get done with the truck. So once we have enough money to purchase a Cup car, we're going to be moving over into the new spreadsheet that I developed, which is going to look very different from this one. I started from scratch and really put it together in a way that I think allows me to do some things that this spreadsheet does not. So I just started from scratch with that one with as much freedom and as many options as I could build in to that spreadsheet. So that's going to be happening fairly soon. But coming up next, we have Charlotte. And not just Charlotte, but we've got a crown jewel event. So that means the amount of money goes way up versus what we're used to. And that means a great opportunity for us to get ever closer to our goal. All right, folks, welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway. And today, well, there's going to be a lot going on.
We need to follow car number 66.
But to start off, our spotter and the crew chief have a lot to tell us before we take the green. So I'm going to step aside and let them do just that. And we'll talk about the race here in just a few moments.
Catch stop 24, catch stop 25, catch stop 66,
Catch up to car number 66.
All right, so now that I think they've got it out of their system, for the time being anyway, let's talk about today's race. 75 laps here at Charlotte against an AI skill spread of 90 to 115. So the same or very similar to what we've been using here recently, but the AI here at Charlotte are fast, at least from my perspective, especially on new tires, and they seem to have better tire wear than me at this place. So that is going to present a huge challenge. Of course, remember, this is a special event, so there's a lot of money on the line. So the better we finish, the bigger percentage of that purse we can bring home. Starting 15th, our goal is to get, well, inside the top 10 first, and then we'll see how deep within that we can get. All right, so we're looking for that Geico restart zone.
H car's leaving.
And then we'll talk about the most important thing. Oh, what a start. They took off pretty quick there. That was much earlier than we had been starting.
Got one outside.
So they snookered me a little bit on that start, but we still got off to a decent start.
Stay low.
All right, this truck is going to be really loose.
Stay low.
So I'm just going to try to hang on to it for a few laps. But the most important part of today's race is that for the first time in this series, after about 34, 35 videos, oh, hang on to it. After 34 to 35 videos, we are not in VR. And there's a couple of ways you can tell. Number one, I changed the title of the video. It does not have VR in the title. But the second thing is that you'll be able to see full screen.
Got one inside. Still there.
VR isn't quite full screen because of the way the resolution in VR works when recording.
Stay right there.
All right, so we're up on the high side now. So we're not in VR, and we'll talk as the race goes on about why that is and our plan going forward. Oh, yeah, this thing, we're just, the back end is all over the place right now. So the high side is probably our best bet right now. And of course, you can see the AI are not.
Wood. Clear.
Oh, don't do it. Yeah, exit of 4 is the worst spot. Luckily for us, the 24...
Leader has just done a 30.3. New fastest lap for Smith, 30.3. P12.
Yeah, luckily for us, Jack Wood was having even more trouble than we were going through that corner. So he's bottlenecked a little bit behind us. So that will slow things down a little bit. But you can see Stuart Friesen is coming very quickly. All right, 45, I'm going to need you to get going.
Keep it on top. Clear.
You can see there, if practice is any indication, then, well, we're going to be in trouble. Because we were dead last. I knew the AI were going to be fast here, but I didn't quite know they were going to be this much faster than me. So we'll see how things work out in the race. A lot of money on the line here in this event, with it being a special event or a crown jewel.
Got one outside. Clear.
Oh, hang in there. Trying to make these passes,
Outside.
but knowing that I cannot get the gas to the floor, and I'm having to really work hard on this thing, trying to baby it through the corner. All right, there we go. We're getting a little bit better. I figured it would take probably 3 to 5 laps, but here we are on lap 6, and I'm still trying to get this thing comfortable through the corner.
Outside.
Yep, had to back out of the gas there, middle of the corner. Got back to the gas, and this thing immediately started sliding sideways.
Clear. Outside. Clear.
So yeah, I am about half throttle going through the corner when I get back to the gas. And so of course that's doing no favors to us right now as far as our speed. But 3 and 4 is definitely the worst. Alright, so as things are starting to calm down a little bit, we're just outside the top 10, so we're off to a good start.
31.3.
We're certainly not storming through the field. Come on now, 52. So these guys, with their increased aggression over the last couple of races, this is the first time that I can really see that. These guys are not giving each other as much room as they might otherwise have been doing. So if you weren't with us the past few races, I increased the aggression on the entire car set by about anywhere from 5 to 10 points per truck, just depending on the driver. Some of the more aggressive drivers got closer to 10 increase. Some of the more conservative drivers for the car set only got around 5. But you can see right now these guys are fighting hard. And the 52 just cannot quite clear him. All right, he's in his best spot so far right now.
Stay low.
Wow, he was off the gas a lot right there on corner entry. I thought he would actually drive it in a little deeper to try to get clear, but he did not.
Clear. Got one outside. They're on the bottom, 3 wide. Hold your line.
All right, we're going to stick our nose in here 3 wide because why not?
Outside. Still there.
What else would you do with a truck that is loose and you're just trying hard to control it?
You're in the top 10. Clear. Got one outside.
All right, so no brakes
Keep to the bottom.
on entry of the corner or through the middle. There's really no reason for it right now. We'll see about as the tires wear and whatnot, but for right now, no reason for it. Just simply backing out of the gas.
Clear outside.
There we go. So we cleared him. Now that puts us inside the top 10. In, I believe, 9th position once this all squares up.
P9.
Yeah, there we go. So my hope is that this setup, while very loose at the beginning of a run, will pay off in the middle to end of the run. Of course, we're going to have to make a pit stop, which in all likelihood will be under green. So again, we're going to try to split this race in half. And I'm hoping that these tires will hang in there. And that we won't lose a ton of time to the AI, as we have done in the past here at this track. So that's my hope anyway. But now let's get back to talking, now that the field has definitely gotten spread out. Let's get back to talking about the VR.
The gap's now 0.9.
So VR is fantastic. I absolutely love it. And of course we've done, up to this point, I believe 34 races.
Okay, Brian, you're reeling. Great. In. The gap is 0.7.
Of course, now the crew chief decides he wants to talk. But VR has been amazing for, I believe, 34 races now into this series, and I absolutely love it. However, there are some obvious disadvantages to VR. Some for me, others for you guys watching the footage. And one of them is that you guys don't get to see as much information when I'm in VR. You don't get to see things like in the bottom left-hand corner is the gear indicator, the speed, all that kind of stuff. You know, my throttle and brake traces, all that. You guys don't get to see those in VR. Same thing with the position. Right now in the bottom right-hand corner is the relative position, so the live timing and scoring. You guys don't get to see that when I'm in VR because, well, it's just not on the screen for immersion reasons. But now I get to see that. And then, of course, the idea of the full screen.
Okay, Brian, that's good consistency. Keep it up.
Full screen instead of, you know, the cropped footage that we get with a little bit of room on the top or bottom of the screen. So there are those reasons. But then there are some reasons, some disadvantages for me when producing this. And of course, part of that is the extra strain on the CPU. GPU is not really an issue. The GPU has not really been struggling. I've spent a lot of time with the monitor, the resource monitor, trying to see just what was the limiting factor, and it's easily the CPU in this setup. No surprise there, really. But it's not even that. That's not why we're not in VR today. None of those reasons are why we are not in VR for this race, and a lot of them going forward. It really comes down to some real-world things for me individually, and that is VR, the headset itself, just simply causes some issue. And I'm sure you guys are aware of this. If you've ever seen anybody doing VR content or been around anybody who's worn a VR headset for any length of time, you'll know that it's very common for your face to be very red and sweaty around the area of the headset where you've been wearing it. Now, there are some things you can do to mitigate that. Some different types of materials that you can use on the headset for covers and such, but at the end of the day, you're going to be hot and sweaty
Got one outside.
And along with that,
Clear outside.
your face is going to be, you know, probably at least some shade of red from the direct contact for a long period of time. So that definitely happens to me. And then, of course,
0.1 P7.
there is VR hair, which is where, depending on how your headset is connected, whether you have, in my case, the Oculus, whether you have the standard straps on your head, or what I actually have is the upgraded strap, which is much nicer, but it still gives you that VR hair. It really messes things up, and of course, hot and sweaty. So that means that I am very limited to when I can record in VR, because recording in VR and then trying to leave your house to go to work or to go out to eat or to spend time with friends is not really all that conducive. So I've been limited to very early in the morning, getting up early to do it, or trying to stay up later right before bedtime and do it. And I can tell you, the staying up late is not a good option for me. So it's been getting up early to try to record before I would need to get ready for the day. And over this, you know, period of about 34 videos, I believe it is, it's just gotten old. It has gotten to where it is a lot of trouble to make all this happen, and I just don't feel like it's worth it on a regular basis. Now, are we still going to do VR? Absolutely, we're going to still do VR. But I'm going to save the VR for some of the special events and some of the tracks that I really want to experience. And of course, all of that is subject to change based on my real life schedule and when I can work that in. But that's the plan.
Good consistency. Keep them coming. The gap ahead is now 1.2 seconds.
So there were a lot of potential advantages and disadvantages for VR that I was aware of. Some I wasn't aware of when we started this. But the main purpose of this series is really twofold. It's about VR for sure, and my intro into VR, and particularly my intro into sim racing VR, but also it's about the career mode, and I am really excited for what's coming up with my personal spreadsheet in the future for that. We are not very far from moving over to my spreadsheet, and that has me actually even more excited than I would be for VR, honestly. All right, so let's dip back into the race. I've almost just sort of zoned out and went into autopilot for a little while. We are 25 laps in now, and 7th position. All right, so not bad. But you can see that the guys behind us are definitely catching us. They're not blazing by us, but at the same time, we're certainly not pulling away from anybody at this point in the run, which is actually not too bad. I actually thought it might be worse than this by this point in the run, because we need to go about in between 35 to 40 laps on this set of tires. So we still got about 10 to 12 laps or so left in this particular run. All right, so we got John Hunter coming up to our inside. I am once again just going to try to run my groove, and if he passes us, then he just passes us. Not going to try to hold him up.
Keep it on top. Clear.
But we're going to try not to lose any speed either. Try not to run directly in his wake either. Try to keep at least the left front nose, if not about half the truck, running below where he is. So about a half lane below at least. Really want to get down here and use this bottom as well, but I feel like that top may be a better option. But I have to say, the truck, as far as the balance of it, yes, it's gotten tighter, obviously. That's just what happens over the course of a fuel run. As the fuel burns off and the tires wear out and all those types of things, then you just get used to that. But we're going to see how much can we hold up. We got inside the top 10, up to 7th. Now, how much of that can we hold on to before we make our green flag stop? Again, assuming that there's no caution. And at this point, I see no reason for there to be a caution because everybody is so spread out. I'm actually a little surprised that we were able to get up through the field this far.
The guy behind's reeling you in. The gap's now 0.7.
All right, that is good information. The guy behind is starting to catch us. Fortunately, I know that he wasn't even a second behind us before, so he's not exactly reeling us in by, 3 or 4 tenths or more per lap. So that's the biggest thing. I know they're catching us, but how much are they catching us? That is the key. If they're catching us by about a tenth of a second per lap, somewhere thereabouts, then I feel okay with that. If they're catching us by a half second a lap, that is no good. But right now, he's definitely catching us. Infinger is behind us and is definitely going to catch us. But at the same time, he's not exactly blowing our doors off either. So we're here on lap 31, and again, we're going to try to roughly split this in half. So we're looking somewhere between lap 35 and 40 for our pit stop. We'll have to see how to get on pit road because it's been a while since I tried to do this under green. If we've even done it under green, we might have been using the caution clock here. And so we might not have even made green flag pit stops here. I can't remember.
Right front tire's worn out.
Okay, not bad. So we get that indication, and that gives me an idea about roughly the percentage of where we have on the right front tire. But we're very deep into a run to be receiving that message. I mean, we've only got a few laps left before we pit. So if you look behind us, of course, Infinger is there. He has caught us now, and he'll be looking for a way by. And again, I'm not going to be looking to really hold him up a lot. Now, I can tell you, turn 1 and 2, we are actually pretty good right now. 3 and 4 is where we are off. So I'm trying to get out of the gas early down here in 3 and 4, trying to see if I can get this thing turned.
Pit window is open.
But right now, I just cannot get it to turn, especially up top. You could see the truck was hopping all over the place.
P9.
All right, so we're in 9th position. Oof, yeah, following him through that corner was not a great idea. Let's get back to the bottom here a little bit. See if I can wrap this bottom a little bit better. I mean, that's better. It's a little less bumpy. It's smoother down there on the bottom. So that certainly helps.
That was a 33.2.
All right, again, the lap time is not really important for me right now because I don't really have a lot to compare it to. What I'm comparing it to is how quickly the guys in front of me are leaving me and how quickly the guys behind are catching. Yeah, I think the bottom is just our better option at this point. I thought maybe the middle to upper grooves might be, but particularly in 3 and 4, the high side is just not an option. The truck just bounces
The gap in
around.
front has increased. It's now about 0.9.
All right, so it is about time for us to come into pit. We are starting to lose a lot more time. So let's see how we can do pit road entry. Again, I don't know where to start braking here, but, well, we're going to try to figure it out. And if anything, I want to be conservative on this thing. Ooh, that was definitely earlier than I needed to be. All right, what is pit road speed? Okay, awesome, we're right
Look
there
out
at
for the
it.
pit speed limit. Pit lane speed limit is 45 miles
That was
per
definitely
hour.
a conservative entry.
Okay, Brian, we'll fill you to the end of the race.
5,
All right, where is the lollipop
2,
guy?
1. Right here.
Okay, not too bad. Again, very conservative.
6, go.
13.3 seconds, not bad on pit lane from those guys. They did their job.
Rejoin him.
All right, so my goal right now, and I'm going to stay down closer to this yellow line. Again, just trying to not gain anything on these guys during this whole pit cycle, because we've seen that happen in the past, and I don't like that. Because it would be one thing if I felt like I was doing an amazing job. Oh my goodness, I'm going to wreck it coming out of the pit. It would be one thing if I felt like I was doing an amazing job getting onto and off pit lane and all that, but I am not.
Halfway.
All right, so there's your halfway indication.
You're last.
I love that. You're last. I appreciate that, crew chief. All right, so I'm trying to be very delicate and easy with this truck. Let's see where he goes down here. If he stays up, yeah, he's going to stay up there.
Outside. Clear outside.
So now we're going to have to wait a while for this to all cycle out. I think
Okay,
we got
Brian,
into the pits.
halfway home. Fuel looks good.
I think we got, oh, yeah, this thing is just so loose. Almost forgot how loose it was. But we're going to have to wait a little while for all this to cycle through.
Got one outside.
So if you can hear the throttle, of course you can see it in the bottom left-hand corner. You can see I am not being ultra aggressive with this thing, trying to turn really fast laps. That's how loose this thing is right now. So I'm just trying to take care of the tires, trying not to wreck it. Oh, yeah, that is brutal. Turning down off the hill into turn 1. And as normal, I have to get down there and play around with that painted line. Always have to get down there and play around with it.
We're quickest at the moment.
Oh, well, yeah, we better be the quickest at the moment. Nobody else is pitted. If we weren't, then woof, we would have to do some serious soul searching. But the AI are just so much quicker on new tires than I am. That's what the practice times told me. I mean, they were better than a half second faster than me for the fastest cars.
Anderson.
Still there. Good stop.
You're reeling. Anderson in. The gap's now 11 seconds.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about going forward. So I've already said that we're going to be doing a lot fewer VR races.
Outside.
And we'll save the VR more for special events, and I'll try to do as many as I can. But again, it's definitely going to be a lot fewer.
Times are pretty consistent.
But let's talk about how that affects my enjoyment of the race. So I've talked a lot about how fun and how immersive VR is. So how is that going to affect racing once again on a monitor? And for me, it really doesn't affect it much, if any. Because for me, VR, as fun as it is, just feels like something different. It's a nice change of pace.
31.2.
And it is something I definitely enjoy, but the disadvantages are very real and very pronounced for me. And it was something that came to my attention just over and over and over as an issue as we've gotten deeper and deeper into this series, and I've recorded more and more content. And it became more and more obvious that I was going to have to make a change in order to keep, doing this much recording and adjusting my schedule to make it happen and all that. So now that we're on the monitor, I can tell you during the course of this race, it definitely feels different not being in VR, because this is the first time I've really run a race in quite a while outside of VR. And it definitely feels different, but I can tell you it's not any less fun. It's just different. And that's really the best way to describe it. Now, at this point, if I were going to build a new system, because as I've mentioned, at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, I'll be looking
Brian,
to.
you're reeling. Anderson in. The gap is now 1.7 seconds.
I'll be looking to get a new PC because it's been several years now. We're 6 to 7 years on this one, which is not terrible, but for recording purposes, it's a little bit long in the tooth for sure.
Got one outside.
But I can tell you right now, I have done the triple monitor setup before. It's been several years now since I did it, but I would prefer the triple monitor set as a dedicated setup versus the VR just because of the disadvantages of VR. One of the things I absolutely love to do is to be able to hop on and do a quick practice session or a quick race pretty much just any time I want. Even if I know I'm not going to have time to do a race, maybe just get in and run some laps.
Place. The gap behind is now 0.2.
And that's something I highly value. Being able to say, you know, I've got, 15, 20 minutes here. Let's fire up whichever sim it is. Doesn't have to be iRacing for sure. Just fire up the sim and run some laps and have a little fun. Well, in VR, I can't really do that.
Clear outside.
But with a triple screen setup or a single monitor setup, I can. And that is a very valuable bonus for me, an advantage overall for me. By the way, it is a lot of fun passing these trucks right now. But what's not fun is knowing that they're going to be passing me and just blowing by me here shortly.
Clear outside.
All right, the truck's finally starting to come to me a little bit to where it's not so extremely loose.
22nd place.
All right, so again, we don't really care about what position we're in right now. We know everybody's coming in the pit. The question is, when? We know these guys can, in general, run it right to the end on fuel, but
You're reeling. Wood. The gap's now 0.2.
But overall, I have to say I'm pretty happy with the handling of the truck. Once we get by those first few laps where it is extremely loose.
21.
The truck does go tight, but can't really complain a whole lot about how it feels. All right, here we go. Now you're seeing the message at the top of the screen.
The gap to Wood behind is increasing. It's now 1.2 seconds.
All right, now I'm trying to be a little bit careful in turns 3 and 4 when I know these guys are coming into the pits. I've seen too much carnage under green flag pit stops in the past, but here lately they seem to have gotten that worked out, at least to a large extent. And the AI do a lot better job of pitting under green than they used to. But there's a part of my brain that just will not let go of what it used to look like with these guys cutting across the track and across traffic. So these guys are coming out of the pits.
All right, Brian,
with
there's a car exiting the pits. Heads up.
They're going to have 20 to 25 laps
B19
on their tires.
Next car's the leader. Outside. Good stop.
And of course with me, I'm going to have a lot more than that on my tires.
Stay on the bottom. Clear.
So let's see how this thing cycles through. We have seen it work in our favor, and we've seen it where we've come up just a little bit short and we didn't quite have enough speed to hang with those guys on the newer tires. So let's see how it works out this time. If you take a look in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see how our position is changing as everybody is cycling through. Now, this is also, now that I notice that we're in third position, that means that nearly everybody has pitted at this point. So now's the time where we got to start looking in our mirror. And we got to look in that rear view and see, okay, who's coming and how quickly. I see Zane Smith. Whew, he came up very quickly.
Car leaving the pits.
Next car's the leader.
All right, so we got 20 laps to hold on to as many positions as we can. So right now, oh, we're in second now. Okay. I thought it had actually pretty much cycled through.
Hocevar is gaining on you. The gap's now 1.2 seconds.
So we're sitting here in second position. That's how much time we gain by getting on those new tires quicker. But of course, it won't last. Unfortunately, it's not going to last.
Outside.
All right, I'm trying to give Hocevar as much room as I can, because obviously he is light years faster than us at this point. So we got about 20 laps remaining in this race. And turns 3 and 4 is my nemesis right now. We're getting through 1 and 2 pretty good. But 3 and 4, not so much. All right, here comes a good buddy.
Outside. Keep low. Good stop.
Smith is closing you down. The gap has come down to 0.5.
All right, so I'm trying to look behind me.
Inside.
All right, we'll let him go.
Clear inside.
I was planning to let him go by on the top, but it didn't quite work out that way. So I look behind us, and I see that these guys are coming up pretty quickly. They're not all that far behind, and that is not a good sign
Go high.
for us. That is not what we want. Because if we're going to hang on to as many of these spots as possible and try, I mean, my hope is that we can hold on to a top 10 finish
The gap
out of this.
Smith.
That would make me very
It's
happy.
now 1.6 seconds.
But we're just going to have to see how this works out. Because right now, 6th position is less than 2 seconds behind us. That's another thing that was very hard for me to do in VR, is find some of the menus. I would have to move my head a good bit in some cases to really see some of the information that I wanted to see. And now it's just right there on the screen. I can quickly glance over and see what I need to see. All right, here comes a couple of trucks. I believe this is 5th and 6th.
Stay low. Keep low. Clear.
All right, now where is 7th? I'll look, hopefully, either back stretch next time, or maybe I'll get an opportunity here in the front stretch. Oh, almost spun it out right there.
Got one inside.
Not sure if that was a truck right up behind
That
us
car's a lap
or
down.
what, but yeah, that got really loose for 3
The car
and 4.
behind is reeling you in. The gap is now 3.7 seconds.
Oh,
6th
3.7.
place.
Oh yeah, truck is built in really free right now.
Inside. Stay right there. Clear inside.
That's interesting that we have gotten so loose now. Actually, I like it because
car is
it's
not
something
a V5
different.
car.
It's it feels like
Okay, Brian. The next car is Rhodes.
it feels like a live track. Now we haven't had any contact, so I can't say that it's any sort of front or rear end damage, you know, messing up the toe or anything like that that has caused this. It's just, in all likelihood, it's down to how I've been driving this thing since we got the new tires. And I've been trying to be as easy on these tires as I can.
32.8.
For, well, right about now. The last 15 to 10 laps of the race. And so far, so good. Now, I noticed the 8th position as I glanced down is 1.7 seconds. So they're less than 2 seconds behind us right now. And that's 8th. I'm hoping that 9th and 10th are a good bit behind us, because we still got several laps left to go.
The car behind is catching. The gap's now 0.4.
Oh yeah, that's a good corner right there. We're still able to do some good things in 1 and 2, but just 3 and 4, I'm getting crushed. Yep, there it is, that loose right there, causing me to have to make corrections and or lift off the gas a little bit to try to rein it back in.
Stay low. Still there. Stay on the bottom.
But yeah, 1 and 2 feels so much
Clear
better.
outside.
All right, so now we're going to try to tuck in here. We know we got Christian Eckes on the way. And we're just trying to manage the gap. We know we're getting passed by much fresher tires, so I'm just trying to lose as little time as possible.
10 laps to go.
All right, 10 laps to go. No time to exhale though. 'Cause we got a lot of work to do these last 10 laps. Oh, yep, there it is. There's the back end wanting to swing around. But overall, I have to say, not too bad. This is certainly much better than it could be if we were just extremely tight, which we've seen at, like, say, Bristol,
Lap times are pretty consistent.
where we got destroyed by the AI on the long run. All right, at some point, I'm hoping that these lap times will sort of even out a little bit, and these guys will no longer be faster than me, and we'll just be able to slot in somewhere. But we'll see if and when that happens. Or should I say if or when? Because it should stabilize at some point, especially since we are inside of 10 to go. Oh, that was a much better 3 and 4. That was actually a very good 3 and 4 for us. All right, I like that. You can see Eckes is right there. Get back to the gas. Yeah, 1 and 2 is a dream
7th position.
compared to 3 and 4. So let's try to back it off a little bit earlier on the entry of 3. Try to get the truck down to the bottom. Then as soon as I feel it rotate, you guys can see it rotate, I'll get right back to the gas, and we're going to try to finish this thing off strong because Eckes has caught us, but as of yet has not been able to get by us. And again, I'm not just going to move over out of his way. We're going to give it everything we got here because every position is a good bit of money since this is a crown jewel. All right, so there's the message that the right front is wearing out. That's totally expected. Oh, yep, afraid to turn the wheel coming off of turn 4 there. So I'm trying to use literally every bit of the track.
Clear.
All right, you can see he backs way off early on the entry of 1. Should get a nice run down the back straightaway here. Yep, he's going to get a nice run. He's going to take the bottom.
Okay,
I'm not going to try to block that.
Catch up here.
Stay high.
But we're going to fight him if I can. That was actually a pretty good corner
right
for
there.
us on top. Let's see what he does down here in 1 and 2. He's been lifting off the gas very early
Stay high.
8th place.
on the
Very good
top.
consistency. Keep it
Got
up.
one inside.
All right, he did once again, but not quite as early as I might have hoped.
Clear to the bottom.
All right, there we go. We held him off at least for the second.
Inside.
I was hoping to get clear by enough room. Oh, bouncing around a lot.
Stay high.
I really wanted to get down to the back down to the bottom there in 3 and 4. Couldn't quite make it happen. But this thing is not over. This battle is not over. We'll see how we get through 1 and 2 here. Pushed it too hard. Got tight coming off the corner. But we notice, take a look in the bottom right-hand corner. Parker Kligerman inside the top 10, but he is about 4.5 seconds behind. Oh, that is dreadfully tight there. All right, so we're not going to be able to get back to Ekus. I thought we might be able to get back to him and
2
battle
laps
with
left.
him, but not to be. Right front tire's finally starting to give in.
White flag next time I have a strike.
Feels like you're out of the gas forever on the corner entry there to 3, but boy, does it work well in the center and exit. All right, final time around. Look at that,
White flag,
8th
last lap. The gap in
place.
front is increasing.
If we can
It's
finish
now
this off,
0.9.
nothing crazy happens, and we can finish this off, I will be very happy with our top 10 finish. And hopefully our crew chief will as well. He's usually pretty passive-aggressive about these things. All right, coming off of turn 4, everything looks good. We'll take the checkered flag in 8th position. I like it. I'm very happy with that.
E8. Okay, that's the finish.
There's a
Well
flag.
done, mate.
It's over.
All right, we got a well done, mate.
Great job,
I'll take
driver.
that. I will take that. So as we work our way back to the pits, 8th position, I felt like our tire fall off was not too bad until we got to about the last 7 to 9 laps of the run. At that point, that's where it really started to fall off a lot more compared to the AI. But before that, I felt like we were doing pretty good overall. They were catching us, but not by a huge amount. So I like this setup. I feel like the
What's your
setup
speed?
worked well. It's definitely not going to get us a win against this particular AI skill spread,
Hitboxing 10,
but I feel like what it does do is it keeps us very consistent
5,
in our lap times and
3,
our opportunity
2.
to have
The
a
race
good
is over.
race. All right, let's go ahead and hop
Right here.
into our pit box, and we will call it a day as soon as we take a quick look at the standings. So let's go ahead and hop out. This is another area where it
P15.
should look
That's
a
the end of
lot
the race.
different
Bad luck, mate.
outside of VR. So it looks like Zane Smith got the victory. Again, we saw him. We came out very close to him once all the pit cycle was done. Hocevar, Chandler Smith, John Hunter Nemechek, and Ben Rhodes are your top 5. And if we look at the gaps here, of course, we had a great battle with Christian Eckes there. Parker Kligerman and Stuart Friesen were behind us in the top 10. Overall, a lot of the usual characters up there, but we came home with what I will consider a great finish here at Charlotte. Top 8, and it was a great, clean race. That will do it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and stick around for more custom career mode and some VR gameplay.